What's going on, everybody? It's another Bucking Hangover. Week 6, another Buccaneers loss. Nothing much to say, but hit that intro. Good evening, everybody. It's your host, Moose. Got a special treat for you tonight. Look who it is. It's Mike. Mike is back. He's back. We've missed him. It's been tough doing the show alone. It's kind of weird talking in a room by yourself.
I can only imagine.
And crying about the Bucs by yourself. I've questioned my life a couple times, but I'm happy that you're here to share in the joy.
That's how alcoholism starts. It's when you start talking about them by yourself, and maybe even depression. So
well,
I'm here to save you now.
Week 6 is in the books, and it's been the same. It's been the same every week so far. Basically, having my Jack and Coke in hand, talking about the Buccaneers.
Yeah, well, I've been gone. I was working on a couple things. Actually, working with Charmin. We're trying to make a new toilet paper out of recycled products. Here's a one that I actually got.
Oh wow.
It's reusable. You can use it kind of like one of those reusable diapers.
Yeah, it's like the cloth diapers now that are eco-sensitive.
Yeah, you just use one corner of it each time, and then when you're done, you kind of put it in the washing machine and reuse it.
Well, I wouldn't mind that because I just spent $20 on toilet paper, so it seems like it's a one-time buy at $20, depending where you find it at your local Salvation Army soon.
Yeah, no, it's actually very eco-friendly too, so I'm really pumped about it. But anyways, let's get going here.
Yeah, it's another loss for the Buccaneers, unfortunately. We were hoping things would go a little bit differently, but I don't know. I was talking last week, and we were texting back and forth, of course, talking about the game. I really felt the Panthers were going to take this one. I just didn't think it was going to go like this. I thought we'd give them a game. I guess we kind of did towards the end, but you're not going to win too many games when you get 6 turnovers from your quarterback.
No, that's impossible.
Now, did you get up to watch the game at all?
I watched like the first few interceptions, and then I just
that's how you can measure that game. It's which interception did you tune out at?
I want to say I tuned out probably after the third one, right before halftime. I think I was pretty much done at that point, and I said, you know what, let me go get something productive done because this is a waste of time. Luckily, it was a 9:30 start time here in Florida, so I got the opportunity to watch it while I was still kind of waking up, so it didn't take up too much of my day.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about nightmares or sitting in the worst terminal at the worst airport, O'Hare, watching the game. Basically by myself in the worst bar in the worst terminal. So it was that's how I watched the Buccaneers game, because I had to kill 7 hours just because my flight was late in the day, and the only ride I could get from South Bend to O'Hare was early in the morning. So I was hanging out there at the Goose Island pub.
They can't all be Texas Stadium bar.
No, it was actually better than Texas Stadium bar. I'll have to give you that. But just sitting there enjoying my 10 a.m. beer with my $25 a plate breakfast and watching the Buccaneers suck publicly. Oh, it was an experience.
Yeah, so it's Jameis Winston here once again. The thing is, some people get hyped around him because they'll have like one good game like he did against the Rams, but like I feel like every one good game he'll give you 4 bad ones. And this was one of our bad ones here. Luckily, we won't get a bad game this weekend coming up because they're on the bye week.
That's right. We got the bye week, but let's talk about the game a little bit. And I mean, the turning point from the start was play number 1, almost an immediate interception. Panthers were almost in the red zone already. Despite the stat line, I mean, a little deceiving. The Bucs were behind pretty much all of the game, so 400 yards looks great, but when you look at that 5 INTs and 1 lost fumble, that's really the stat that's going to kill you. And anytime that you're depending on Jameis Winston to throw 54 times, it's not going to be a good outcome for the Buccaneers.
Nope, not at all. And Christian McCaffrey. But going back to our defense a little bit, Christian McCaffrey 22 carries, only 31 yards.
Yeah.
Was averaging 1.4 yards a carry.
And I
So
think
our defense definitely showed
even
up.
even receiving, just total yards, he was definitely under 70.
Yeah, only 26 receiving yards on four receptions.
Potentially under 60, which is what we did in game 2, which was really the key to the Buccaneers' victory, other than Cam Newton basically wrapping the game, which I think is what we kind of figured out after game 2 here is if you have a quarterback that can just play a semi-decent game, you're probably going to beat the Buccaneers.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason Jason Lick does not want to get a quality backup quarterback, because we will all be chanting that backup quarterback's name since like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And since Jameis Winston has no competition, we're just left to watch him finish out the year.
I think you have a great point there. So again, basically the lone bright spot on offense was Chris Godwin, of course, just continuing to tear it up. I think he's getting close to 700 yards receiving already.
Yeah.
10 receptions, 151. No touchdowns for him to this game, but again, really, basically most of the offense there. I think Mike Evans had a few receptions and was up there in yards as well. But
yeah, Mike Evans was 996.
996, so almost 100 for him. But again, the problem is the lack of running game. So when you become, and I know a lot of these yards we're playing from behind, but I think we rushed for at most 50, 60 yards total. What's our rushing total? 42 rushing yards. That might have included a sack or two.
Yep.
I think Jameis was sacked a couple times, 6 times or 7 by the Panthers, but
7 times.
7
35
times.
yards.
And two and a half of those by the one Gerald McCoy.
Yep.
I know everyone was expecting the revenge game I think week 2 when we played the Panthers. I think the revenge game came at this game. 2.5 sacks. Looked particularly disruptive. But I think one kind of thing we have to keep in mind that half our offensive line is just basically out for the next few weeks with Alex Kappa breaking, I think it was his arm. So we had basically practice squad left side of the line, I want to say.
Yeah.
So that I think that helped out a little bit, and it really affected our ability to run. But really, Peyton Barber leading the way with 28 yards. Again, the 3.5 yards a carry really not gonna get us anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 8 carries. Ronald Jones only 4 carries. Ronald Jones found the end zone, which is kind of like surprising.
And so did and what's her name? Notre Dame basketball women's basketball star. Her brother was it Mbugabawe? I forget.
Yep, Dare and Mbugabawe.
Yeah, Mbugabawe. Yeah.
1 carry, 3 yards for a touchdown.
That's the Bilal Powell stat line. All right, just 1 carry, 5 touchdowns. One of my favorite fantasy players of all time. You can always count on him for at least 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, really makes us miss Ernest Graham these days.
The all-star Buccaneer, that third down, he definitely, hopefully should go into the Ring of Honor as the highest performing third down back of all time. And definitely Mr. Preseason. He was one of my favorite preseason stars of all time, always. So, not much to talk about with what went well. We talked a little bit about Chris Godwin, but honestly, despite what the score says, I really feel it was a fairly impressive showing by the defense. And to be honest with you, even the secondary played decently well. I don't know. I found myself questioning Todd Bowles' decisions. I'd see the secondary playing off of the wide receivers like 12 yards, so giving him a huge cushion. I didn't really understand that. So they would just run slants and run outs, and gaining yards here and there, chipping away. So, but the front seven I think played particularly well. When you're looking at the defensive stats, really, the Bucs only gave up 2 of their drives were more than 50 yards for scoring drives, which with all the other drives being like 30, 20, they had a touchdown drive of 8 yards after the last pick that was almost returned by Luke Kuechly. I was particularly impressed by the defense. Carl Nassib had a pretty good game. I think he had 4 tackles for loss and a sack.
Yep.
I mean, what was your impression? For me, this is really kind of the only, like, okay, well, at least the defense kind of played well. I don't even know where to go with this.
No,
How do we
defense.
build on
I
this?
mean, well, defense was impressive. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, obviously, probably one of the best offensive players in the game to date. 22 carries, 31 yards. That's usually not that's a very rare stat line for him. And only 4 catches, 26 yards. He did have one. He did have one rushing and one receiving touchdown, but yardage alone, we definitely stopped them.
Yeah,
So I think the
contained.
defense did their part. No receivers got over 100 yards on that team. Most catches on a by receiver was DJ Moore with 7 catches, 73 yards. Longest being 30. And Curtis Samuel had a pretty good game. He only had 4 catches, 70 yards. So offensively, I mean, by the Panthers, they really did not get much going. Defense did a great job stopping them. But when you turn the ball over 5, 6 times, I mean, the
It was
defense can
seven.
only
Seven
do so
times
much.
when you include the muff punt by Bobo Williams. That was a
Yeah.
critical point. The Bucs were starting to get their feet under them, and I think it was almost a 3-and-out, and we fumble the ball, and there you go with the Panthers again with another short drive to be able to score points. I mean, there were so many killer, like, just momentum swings, and it's a game. I mean, I don't want to say it's a game we should have had. I think there's no excuse for 6 or 7 turnovers, but it's a game that well within reach had we minimized the mistakes. So, I think looking at defense as well, I think they only gave up 260 yards of total offense with the Panthers. I think they had 32 minutes time of possession. They definitely had the majority of that. So again, they did a great job limiting the opportunities as best they could. I mean, when your average starting position is inside your opponent's territory, there's really not much the defense can do.
It was seven total turnovers.
7 total turnovers, and when you have a kicker like Joey Sly, who he's up and coming. I think he's going to be one of the best kickers in the league in the upcoming years. Very accurate, and had an opportunity for the rare place kick for a field goal attempt at the end of the
60 yards.
That's something you don't see every day. Of course, the rule being if you fair catch the ball, you're able to do a run up kick, an attempt to kick an unrushed field goal, if you will. From I think he tried right from midfield and just missed it wide right. It had the distance, so it would have been cool to see that actually go through. I would have cheered for that, but
and he also missed one field goal. So he was 3 for 5 overall on his stat line, but I know that one from very far distance. So it was more like just kind of like a Panthers were just having fun at that point.
Yeah, no, it was already fun going into halftime for the Panthers. So.
Well, what went well? Why don't we add Matt Gay in there? He made all his kicks. He
Yeah.
had 2, but he made them all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think he's only missed 2 on the year. Of course, those being semi-critical, but he's really bounced back starting with the Rams game. And I think he's going to be a great kicker. Every kicker has some rough moments, and
Yeah, absolutely.
thankfully he's playing for the Buccaneers, and we don't really have a chance for anything this year. But so he'll get his experience. But I agree. I think he's been a pretty solid bright spot for our team. So we talked about what went well. We all know that what didn't go so well truly outweighs the positives we were to pull from that game. And I put I love my favorite memes there. The dumpster fire. I really feel this team is turning into a dumpster fire very quickly. I mean, I have to give it to the team for not really talking poorly or making slight remarks about the quarterback play. And to be honest with you, I like Jameis as a person because he gets up there and he owns it. And maybe it's the same garbage every time. It's I got to play better. I got to work hard. But he gets up there. He could choose not to face the media. So.
Yeah. You like him as a person. I don't like him as an Uber passenger, but we all to each our own.
Yeah, he's trying. He's trying.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go ahead and say that not the defense. I wouldn't go ahead and say the team is a dumpster fire because our defense is definitely showing lots of improvement from last year, giving up like 40 points a game minimum. And our receivers are playing really well. Chris Godwin has emerged. O.J. Howard, I mean, I'm very disappointed.
He's really disappointed, and I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's if that's play calling or if that's Jameis not looking for him, or if he's just not getting open. I don't know what the strategy is behind that. I expected a huge year from him.
So the only things that I'm kind of would say would fall into the dumpster fire category. I don't want to say dumpster fire, but I'm just going to say a wastebasket fire is going to be Jameis Winston. That is, you know what? And I'm not going to put all the blame on him because our offensive line isn't where it should be
No.
at the moment either. So, maybe a little bit bigger than a wastebasket, maybe like a little kitchen, little trash can.
But I think what concerns me is he's still just making poor decisions. Like it's throw the ball away completely out of bounds. I think a prime example is the interception to Luke Kuechly. It was just lasered at him. Like no Buccaneers receiver in the area. Like I don't know if there was a miss route or he.
That's when I turned off the game. Was after that one.
The Luke Kuechly. Oh my gosh, that was on his numbers. He didn't have to move. So I don't know if he didn't see him or if there was a miscommunication with the route, but it was right at him, and it basically a pick six because they scored on the next play or the next two plays. So I don't know. I mean, what do we do at this point? Do we obviously, like you said earlier, we're not chanting Ryan Griffin's name. I mean, some of us are jokingly, but I don't know if any of us really want to see that. Obviously, Jameis, I still believe gives us the best chance to win going forward. But I mean, what do we do? I mean, are we looking at a Josh Freeman type situation where we, it's year 5 and we just kind of wipe our hands of it? I mean, I just don't know where even the Bucs might end up in draft position to be able to. I haven't even looked at the draft to see what quarterbacks are coming out this year, other than Tua, of course.
Yeah, Tua, Justin Herbert. Two that I can name off the top of my head. I know Trevor Lawrence the year after. I'm not really sure about the LSU quarterback Burrows. I'm not sure if he's young.
He's been impressive, and I don't think he's draft eligible yet, but he has been impressive. I mean, that's maybe a talk for another show, but it's unbelievable seeing offense in the SEC. Usually that's a defensive-minded conference, but seeing an SEC team put up 30, 40, 50 points consistently has been amazing.
I believe Jake Fromm is another person who may be.
Fromm, that's right. Fromm, I think I think he's draft eligible this year. You're right.
Yeah. So I mean, those are some. I think those are top 3: are Herbert, Fromm, and Tua coming into next year, unless any other names emerge. Like every year, like Wentz emerged out of nowhere, and Mahomes came out of nowhere until like the draft. But I think we just gotta see who's available, who's going to be a free agent quarterback. Maybe hold us over for a year or two until we can get a good draft pick. Or I'd say if we end up losing enough, I'd say take a chance, trade our first rounder for the year after, move over, because right now that is our weakness, is the quarterback position, because we have the wide receivers. I guess running backs, we could probably use a little bit of an upgrade at running back, but we have the weapons for a quarterback to be successful. And if you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had some success in that offense, and you never see Jameis Winston do what he was able to do with those receivers.
Fair enough, and I don't know. I still think we're a few missing pieces away. I think we're okay on defense. The secondary, of course, is still suspect. Not as exposed as much this week as typical weeks that we've seen. But I also think we're an offensive lineman or two away from being semi-decent on the line, because I just feel that we still get bullied around. I mean, I know Alex Kappa's hurt, and I know our other tackle is hurt, but I mean, I think we still need significant upgrades on offensive line. We need significant upgrades in the secondary, and we need a quarterback. I mean, we were struggling to pay our rookie contracts this year. I mean, I don't even know if we have the bandwidth to improve. I haven't looked at who's dropping off in terms of contracts next year, and Jameis is basically being paid peanuts on his 5th-year contract.
I thought he's getting paid like $23 million.
Is he at 23?
Yeah, something like that.
Jeez.
25 for his 5th year. Guaranteed.
Wonderful. I was thinking that the rookie NFL contract. Well, that's right. He was a first-round pick. He was a first overall pick, so they get the lion's share. I forgot about that. So that, in theory, becomes free to some degree.
Does it kind of bother you that Mariota got benched and Winston never did the whole game?
I think that's Bruce Arians. I think Bruce Arians is committed to Winston. And I think he's trying to, he came in. One of the big selling points was him as the quarterback whisperer, if you will, right? And being interested in Jameis Winston and hoping that he could turn it around. So I think that's part of it, of why we haven't seen him benched. But I also think that Ryan Griffin, I just think that
there's no option.
There
no
really
option.
isn't. I just think that Winston gives us the best chance to win. Doesn't matter if he's throwing 4 touchdowns or 6 interceptions. It's just. I think we've seen Ryan Griffin's ceiling is the preseason. I just don't think he performs.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, when you're playing against second, third string, yeah, you're going to look great. But when you're playing against Gerald McCoy and Luke Kuechly, I don't think so. Or maybe we're wrong. I mean, maybe he just needs a chance. But my guess is a 66-year-old coach who's been around the league knows what he's doing. So I don't know.
Yeah, and you got Mariota here. Went 7 for 18. 63 yards and 2 interceptions.
He's struggling. I mean, who's the backup in Tennessee?
Ryan Tannehill.
That's right. So I mean that's a formidable backup. So I think if Fitzpatrick was still here, then maybe we'd still be hearing shouts for Fitzpatrick to play. But when it's
and that's why I think he's not here, because I don't think the GM was committed to Winston and does not want that controversy where it's like. That's just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
I agree. And, I wanted to talk, before we move on, I wanted to, I put the referee, our favorite referee, throwing the flag up there. I think through the first 6 games, we need to look up the stats for who's been the most penalized team, but the Buccaneers have to be up there. And I think what's most frustrating is that these penalties are coming at critical times. It's never like, 5 yards here, and it didn't really make a difference because... we're going to get the first down anyway because our offense is so potent. It's always a holding. It's always a, illegal shift at like the worst time, killing drives, killing momentum. And again, 9 penalties yesterday, probably over 100 yards in penalties. It's something that shifts the balance of the game. And, when you look at penalties, and this team has been among the most penalized teams over the last few years, very undisciplined. I find myself yelling at the TV screen, like, why are you moving? Just, the snap count. Why are you moving? You're at home. It's quiet at home. I just don't, I don't know. That's something I feel that we need to improve, and maybe you agree or disagree.
What I'm seeing here, actually, surprisingly, the most penalized team, NFL team penalties per game is Carolina Panthers.
Oh, wow, and it's amazing. Only 3 penalties yesterday, by the way. In case you were wondering.
Oh no, actually, you know what? The Panthers are actually the best.
Oh, they're the least penalized. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, least penalized.
There you go.
The most penalized team is the Atlanta Falcons, and the Bucs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. Eighth penalized team.
Yeah. That sounds about right. The Falcons, though. Speaking of dumpster fires, let's put the Atlanta Falcons logo on dumpster fire. That is a bad team, and I don't know how they're so bad.
That's a shocker.
Well, you know what? I know why they're so bad. Their offensive coordinator is Dirk Cutter. That's why they're so bad.
There you go.
God.
There you go. Good point.
So I think we've gotten that out of the system now. So let's look at the standings going into the bye week. Bucs, of course, 3rd, going in at 2-4. Now 2 big games behind the Panthers. That was a big game to drop. Not surprising. Well, kind of surprising. I guess the Saints up top, not losing any steam, even with Drew Brees and what most thought was a big opportunity for the Buccaneers when he went down to potentially take hold of the division. Saints up top at 5-1, looking like they aren't missing a beat. I think the big surprise.
Teddy Bridgewater is undefeated as a starter.
He is undefeated as a starter with the Saints. I think the big surprise is our NFC leader, the San Francisco 49ers. You're sporting their jersey, supporting Jimmy G. They're the second time you've gotten to wear this year. 5-0 for the 49ers. I couldn't bring myself to wear the Bucs jersey today. I'm just getting back from South Bend. I went to the USC Notre Dame game, so had to get myself a Notre Dame jersey. Got my number 8. for whoever decides to be number 8 in the upcoming years. I think this year it's Jafar Armstrong. So I think it was Malik a couple years ago as well. So
It's not, number 8. Is that usually the same position, or does
nah,
it
it's
bounce
usually
around?
someone fast, a lot faster than me. So
What significance does number 8 have?
not, I mean, it's just a number.
Oh, okay. It's not like
No,
the
it's not.
top
It's
recruiter or anything.
no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not a special number for Notre Dame.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think we have any special numbers. So usually we don't have I don't think we have any retired or anything.
Montana?
I think we retired Rudy's number. Now people still wear the 3.
Really? Wow.
People still wear the 3. I think we may have retired Rudy's number. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's a thing. I'll have to look that up. By the way, actually, where I stayed for the weekend, quick aside, was actually where it's funny. My buddy Thomas showed me around. His uncle's a priest, so we got to stay at the seminary, and it was a great experience. But they actually have the bench where Rudy found out that he got into Notre Dame. They have it like memorialized. It's really, really interesting. They filmed a lot of the movie at the seminary as well. So you see pictures of the priests. They have like pictures signed with was it Sean Astin who played Rudy?
Yeah.
So he like signed all the pictures and he's there, and the actual real Rudy's kind of like coaching the filmmaking. It was a pretty cool thing to see.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Anyway, what are your thoughts on the 49ers? I was not buying into them. Looking at 3-0, I mean, they beat our Buccaneers, of course, which isn't much. And yeah, I think they've played a couple weak teams, but now they've beaten the Rams, and they had they beat the Browns pretty soundly last week. Again, Browns aren't looking like they're the strongest team, but still, 5-0 is nothing to sniff at, especially in that division.
I still very suspect. I mean, 5-0 is impressive in the NFL at any given time. Not going to deny that. But I'm still not that sold on them because they beat the Browns, who have been somewhat of a dumpster fire. They beat the Bucs, which I don't really need to talk about that. They beat the Bengals, which we all know what the Bengals situation is, and they beat the Rams. And the Rams are not the team that we're used to. Now they're on a 3-game slide. So, I mean, their front 7 and looks really good. Secondary, I think can use some work. But their offense hasn't been very impressive. The run game has been pretty solid for sure. But Jimmy Garoppolo has not been impressing at all. So, I mean, I don't know how long the 49ers can hold on to this. I think if they were to play against a team with a somewhat good defense, I don't know if they'd be able to keep up and score as many points. Oh, and they beat the Steelers too. That's right, the Steelers on a Mason Rudolph led Steelers.
I didn't even know they played the Steelers this year. I thought it was they beat the Browns, right?
Yeah, they beat the Browns too. That was on Monday night.
Right. So it's been not great teams, kind of question mark teams. A few of them, of course, bad. But the Rams you would always consider them up in the running. They're looking a lot weaker this year.
And the 49ers get a gift of playing the 49ers the Redskins next week.
Oh, wow. So great potential to be 6-0 for the 49ers. Hey, good on them. Where the Seahawks are they 4-2 or 5-1? I think they're 4-2. So they might have a 2-game lead on the Seahawks, who at this point is likely going to be their competition for the division lead.
Yep. The Seahawks are 5-1. They're actually a one-loss team.
Wow, and I wonder when they play. They're probably in the upcoming weeks. So that'll be interesting. That's really interesting that they haven't played yet. Yeah, I guess they're clashing towards the end of the season.
November 11th is when they play.
Right after the Bucs.
Yep.
So kind of to wrap it up, of course, what's next for our dear Buccaneers?
But you know what? Another team, then we're on the topic of 5-0 49ers.
Yeah.
I'm not that impressed with either at this point. Might be in a minority here, is the Patriots, who are also undefeated, who are 6-0, but I'm just not that impressed by them because they beat the Steelers, Dolphins, Jets on a backup quarterback.
The Bills look good though. I think
the Bills.
I think their most impressive win is the Bills so far.
If it wasn't for those questionable penalties, I think the Bills would have won that game, to be honest with you. And then they beat the Redskins, and they just beat the Giants. So none of these wins are really that impressive. The Bills one, like I said, I'll say it again. the Bills could have won that game if it wasn't for those penalty calls. And then the Patriots got the Jets next week. We'll put them at 7-0. Got the Browns, so they'll go to 8-0. And then they finally got the Ravens, who their defense might give them some competition there.
It's amazing though. This is a Super Bowl winning team who ends up with this schedule. I mean, the whole point of like the way that we schedule in the NFL is that if you're good, you're supposed to be playing all these good teams, and it's like it's amazing. I don't know if it's luck or that the teams that are ranked number one end up being terrible.
Their division, you gotta remember, they got the Jets twice and they got the Dolphins twice in their division.
The Jets didn't look bad. I mean, I think another big question mark is the Cowboys, right? Everyone was anointing them as the NFC representative for the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden they're losing to the Jets with Sam Darnold coming back from mono after being out for 4 weeks. Like, what? I don't know. I wonder if the Jets could give them a run for their money.
Maybe.
We'll talk about it on $10 Sports. We'll see where the spreads are later this week.
All right.
So what's next for our Buccaneers? I think the bye week says it all. Says it all right there. Thank the Lord, it's the bye week. Don't have to worry about a loss. Hopefully, get some healing going and get some of our offensive linemen back. And then, of course, the next Buccaneers game, they'll be at Tennessee on the 27th, followed by another tough road game over in Seattle on the 3rd of November, I think.
Yep, and I'll be at that game. I'll be representing the Buc'ing Hangover live.
Bucs Nation, you'll have to go live for us. You have to get take some pictures and let us know how that experience is. That'll be a nice stadium to visit.
And I'll be doing some interviews too.
Great.
Interviewing some upset Bucs fans after the game when they're walking out, if I find any.
They'll be walking out after the second quarter, be halftime. Where we're gonna go meet up over there. So great. Glad to have you back, Mike. Great episode. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Buc'ing Hangover. We'll see if we do something next week. Maybe we'll just be kind of a quick NFL recap. See where the rest of the NFC South does. We'll be doing $10 Sports later this week. I was really, really upset. Quick preview. 6 for 7 on the Moose's Monster Teaser. I'm still mad at the Eagles. That would have been a solid $200 there, but of course they couldn't even keep it within 10 points. All I needed them to do was lose by no more than 10 points, and we would have been good. They couldn't do it. We'll talk about that on $10 Sports.
Oh, hey. Since we're venting here on this show, I think you forgot to vent about your fantasy football team.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if last week, I know I wasn't here. Did you talk about my victory over your team?
No, I didn't feel there was a place for that.
We won't look in the past.
We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll do. We haven't had a live show yet in a while, so maybe we'll bring up fantasy when we kind of do Balls, Bros, and Brews later this week or next week, and we'll look back at that game because I remember I sent it and I knew it when I sent the text. Don't send this text because you're gonna lose, and that's what happened. I sent a text thanking you for not starting. Who was it? It's like
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, and of course, what's his name on the Packers went off for like
Aaron
50.
Jones.
Aaron Jones went off for 50 points, and I lost.
But you know what? Maybe next week maybe Buc'ing Hangover will be on a bye week along with the Bucs, and we'll for sure guarantee a Balls, Brews, and Bros.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, we'll do a fantasy recap. A couple good sports stories that maybe we can go back and forth on, and I think by then, hopefully, you'd have seen El Camino. We can talk about the Breaking Bad movie as well. Talk about what we thought about it. Of course, Breaking Bad, one of my favorite series. I think it's one of your favorite as well. So
yeah, for sure.
Can see if the
you
movie...
introduced me to it. It took you a couple of years to convince me to watch it, but glad you did.
Yeah, no, I mean, you normally sport the Walter White haircut most days, so that's exciting as well. You're that big of a fan. You pull the Walter White look. All right, everybody, it's been Buc'ing Hangover. It's been Moose and Emrod. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at $10 Sports, $10 Sports. Now, let's see if I get this right. At Balls, Brews, and Bros. Balls, Brews, Bros. All together for Mike. Make sure you're following both of us on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you guys that have subscribed already. And we will see you next week. It's been Moose, and it's been Emrod, Buc'ing Hangover. Have a great week.
Good night.